Now boarding solo flight with Nicole Anderson. Hey guys, welcome back to the pod. Today we're going to be talking about a very hot topic that has been on a lot of people's mouths and brain in the last few years, and that is toxic relationships. Now, we're going to explore actually toxic relationships doesn't necessarily mean just romantic relationships. There can be toxic friendships, there can be toxic work environments, there can even be toxic situationships, right? That's another word that just recently came to be. And because we care for someone, that doesn't necessarily mean that we should turn a blind eye to negative behaviors that are starting to affect our own well-being, right? So let's go through the signs of a toxic relationship, what they are, and I'll also try to think about people I've experienced that with or situations as well. And also, I'm going to go through some of the stories or DMs that you guys sent. So, before we can explore what toxic relationships are or how we can actually find signs for them, I think we need to define what a toxic relationship actually is or what we mean by the word toxic. So let's look at the definition of toxic according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. And it says toxic is containing or being poisonous material, especially when capable of causing death or serious debilitation. Second is exhibiting symptoms of infection or toxicosis. Third is extremely harsh, malicious, or harmful. And fourth is relating to or being an asset that has lost so much value that it cannot be sold on the market. Okay, so I think what really stands out to me in this definition is the fact where it can be poisonous or can cause debilitation, and I think that's what we're going to be exploring right now. So there's actually an article that came out in 2023 written by Sarah Vevers, I think that's how you pronounce it, in the Medical News Today. And the title is Toxic Relationships, What It Is and What to Look For. And I think nowadays, kasi, the reason why I want to focus so heavily on the definition and the signs of what a toxic relationship are is because when something is so heavily discussed or kind of just thrown out flippantly, it's so easy for people to just say that anything is a toxic relationship. But I think the definition really matters because there can be dysfunctional relationships that doesn't mean it's toxic, right? So here in the article, it mentions that it is a relationship that can become toxic when one person starts to have more control than the other, and there is a breakdown in communication. And I want to explore that a little bit because it says that one person has more control than the other. That can mean that either in a friendship, in a romantic relationship, even in a work setting, when one person has more control, therefore that, means that, or that implies that the other party involved in that relationship is losing control or no longer has a say on certain matters. And then bringing that into toxicity, it becomes toxic when it starts affecting the other person's well-being, is my understanding of it. Again, if you guys disagree, let me know in the comment section. I want this to be more of a conversation than a lecture because I am not an expert at all on toxic relationships, although I will be honest, I've definitely experienced a lot of them, and I'll go into some as we continue exploring the topic. So in that same article, she goes on to mention that, or to explain, to give signs of a toxic relationship. And she says, and I quote, "There are several signs of a toxic relationship that someone can look out for. They can then take steps to try and improve the relationship or end it if they feel that that is the best decision. The first one," she says, "is lack of support." I'll link the article in the description box if you guys want to read into it in depth. I'm just going to go through the main topics. But if you want to read this article in depth, I'll link it in the show notes. So she says that the signs of toxic relationship are 1, lack of support, 2, jealousy, 3, toxic communication, resentment is number 4. Number 5 is controlling behavior. Number 6 is dishonesty. 7 is patterns of disrespect. 8 is ignoring each other's needs. And 9 is walking on eggshells. Now, I think the reason I refer to this is I like that she gives a wide kind of spectrum on what signs of toxic relationships are, because many times people just assume that it's only 3 things, right? If it's just controlling behavior, if it's resentment or jealousy, only those things can be toxic. But then there are other things like lack of support can be toxic, dishonesty can be very toxic, especially if someone is gaslighting you. Then you start to question your own beliefs and your own understanding of certain situations. There can also be patterns of disrespect that if it's constantly disrespectful, if someone is constantly disrespectful to you, you then start to accept or can be groomed to that behavior where you then start losing respect for yourself. And I think that can be a very toxic situation. One thing she mentions here that actually struck a nerve with me and that I've actually discussed many times in my past relationships is the walking on eggshells. And I want to explore that just a little bit before we go into the stories and the other article, because I think one easy, clear sign that you feel that you are in a toxic relationship is if you no longer feel safe to bring up a point of discomfort or something that is hurting or bothering you. And that's actually something I struggled with for a very long time because I loved this person so much. Actually, it's a few people. There are multiple people who I've experienced this with, where you love this person so much, so you want to fight for it and you want to make it work, right? And you want to keep that relationship, whatever the dynamic is. It can be familial, it can be platonic, it can be romantic or work or whatever other situation. And I love this person so much. So then I started adjusting my behaviors and I started changing, and I started feeling that I didn't want to bring up topics anymore because, like this article says, I was walking on eggshells. I was afraid that by bringing up certain topics that either hurt me or I felt disrespected by or I felt unsafe in. There have been situations where I felt unsafe, and when I brought it up, I felt more unsafe because I was then being attacked for feeling unsafe. So then I was like, I don't know how to get out of this situation. I don't know how to fix it. So then I would just walk on eggshells, and I was afraid to bring up certain topics for the fear of how that person would react by me bringing it up. And it wasn't until I started talking about it to other people who were kind of were outsiders looking in. They're able to give a wider or like a different perspective because they're not emotionally attached, right? And I'm hoping that maybe someone who needs to hear this today or is watching this might be the sign that you need. But if you don't feel safe discussing things, especially your emotions or your feelings in a relationship, do you really want to be in that relationship? Like, is that something you want for yourself? Because I had to hear it not just once. It didn't take one person telling me that to say that, oh, it clicked na, actually, oh nga no, this is toxic, I need to leave. It's so easy to say. It's so hard to do, especially the more attached you are to this person. But the more I kept hearing it, it took maybe a few times. And then eventually it clicked for me. And I was like, oh my God, yeah. Why am I doing this to myself? At the end of the day, I am choosing to stay. And by choosing to stay, I am allowing this behavior to stay that way. And at the end of the day, that's not what I wanted for myself. And I felt like it's also not what I deserved, knowing that that's not how I showed up in that relationship. And that's not what I was giving. And so I didn't feel like it was fair because I wasn't getting it in return. And it was very difficult, but I was able to eventually get out of it. And I feel genuinely, not just emotionally, spiritually, but also physically, I am physically so much in a better place knowing that I am no longer in a toxic relationship. Okay, that being said, let's go to the next article, which in a 2024 Time Magazine article written by Angela Haupt, Brooke Sproul, a therapist based in Santa Monica, California, said that a lot of what I see in these dynamics is that one person is acting in good faith and the other is being manipulative or controlling. And it really takes a toll on self trust. That's so similar to what I was saying, that one person ends up being more controlling. Maybe they're not even aware of it. Sometimes people don't realize that they're being toxic and they might not intentionally want to be toxic, but I think that is where self-awareness comes into play, because maybe you don't realize na ikaw pala yung toxic sa relationship. And this again reminds me of something a friend mentioned to me. We were on a flight and we just landed in our destination, and she was opening up to me about a breakup that she had. And I was asking her questions about it, just genuinely curious about what had transpired. And she said, you know, in the moment when it was happening, when they were in the relationship and when they would have these fights, she believed na tama siya. And because she believed na tama siya, syempre pinaglaban niya yung belief niya na tama siya. And it wasn't until the relationship ended and she had time to reflect and look back on it and also do some reading online and research, na-realize niya na nung huli na, nung tapos na lahat, doon niya na-realize na, oh, ako pala yung toxic. And sometimes, it takes situations like that na sometimes kailangan ikaw pa yung maiwan. Either iniwan ka or may time ka mag-reflect na ma-realize mo na actually baka ikaw yung toxic sa relationship. And I'm not here to say that, you know, you're toxic or not. I'm not in a position to diagnose anyone as toxic. But I definitely have felt na when it's toxic kasi, yun na nga, the other person felt that they had no other way out and that the other person was being so controlling, as this article mentioned, na it wasn't working and it didn't work out, and in the end, wala na. Pero here kasi it says it takes a toll on your self-trust. And I think that's when it gets really scary, kasi dun ka na nagsisimula, pinagdududahan mo na yung sarili mo. Sa sobrang either pwedeng ginagaslight ka, pwedeng kinokontrol ka, pwedeng lagi ka na lang inaaway, so para hindi ka na lang awayin, tatahimik ka na lang, tapos sa kakakimkim mo, ikaw na yung nagdududa na, mali ba ako? Tapos, in the end, pinagdududahan mo na yung sarili mo. And that's so unhealthy, because so many studies have already been released that show that if you are constantly holding things in, that physically has a manifestation in spiking your cortisol. And so many studies have already released that cortisol spikes have such huge negative impact on your physical well-being. And so if you are in a relationship that is toxic and is starting to take a toll on your self-trust, I urge you to really try to either figure out a dynamic in which you can either take control back or at least have equal say in the relationship. Or if it is really irreparable, then I hope that you're able to be in a position where you can be brave enough to step away, because I've been in situations where I didn't have the guts to do it at the time. Now, kayang-kaya ko na. Subukan nyo. Pero before, I wasn't able to. So I hope you're able to realize when it's starting to take a toll on your own self-trust, or kung nagdududa ka na. If you feel unsafe in the relationship, I think that's also toxic, in the sense that, okay, but I want to make the distinction about feeling unsafe in terms of toxic relationships versus abusive relationships, because there are abusive relationships that can also be toxic, pero abuse kasi implies that there is harm. It can either be physical harm, it can be verbal abuse. I think that is also another form of abuse, right? And I think it's important to make the distinction. Definitely, if there is any abuse in any relationship, I think that needs to end immediately. Although I will be very much aware to say that andaling sabihin, ang hirap gawin. And we can explore that in another topic, and I would actually hope maybe if you guys can suggest, we can interview someone who is either a psychologist or an expert in this area, because I feel like that's a deeper, heavier topic that also relates back to self-worth and why people choose to stay in abusive relationships. That's a topic for another day. Let's go into one story that a listener sent in about a toxic friendship. So this person writes, I have an ex friend of almost 20 years. I ended the friendship last 2024. To summarize, I guess at the time I just wanted something better for myself. Our recent interactions prior to the friendship ending, I found myself really drained when I'm with her. She did not do anything that can be considered too much, but she was always ranting, playing the victim, and then I call her out or give advice, she'll agree, yada yada, and it happens again. And I always try to make her realize her participation in the situation and to be able to take accountability. Since our problems in life are caused by us most of the time, she'll agree, but then it happens again. And she was not a nice person. She always feels entitled, and as an empath, it's hard to be friends with someone so inconsiderate. Okay, I think this person finds this relationship toxic. I don't know if it's necessarily toxic kasi. Because for some people, toxic na paulit-ulit, pero she wants her friend to take accountability, pero mag-a-agree lang yung friend, pero will still do the same thing paulit-ulit. I understand that it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do as a friend. Like, you can give advice and you can lend an ear to listen to this person's problems, but at the end of the day, you can't force them to do anything kung ayaw talaga nila. Kasi actually marami na ako napagdaanan na mga kaibigan na paulit-ulit sila na ganun nga, parang toxic yung situation nila, and then iiyak sa akin, tapos hihingi ng advice, pero hindi makikinig, tas gagawin ulit, tas paulit-ulit. At the end of the day, sinabi ko na lang sa kanya, sabi ko, siguro more than 10 times na rin yung advice. Na paulit-ulit lang, same lang yung advice. At one point, sabi ko, alam mo na rin naman yung sasabihin ko eh. Like, at this point, hindi rin naman magbabago yung isip natin. So, sabi ko, for that situation lang, I'm not saying this is what you should do. I'm just saying that in that situation, sabi ko, at this point, gagawin mo rin lang naman kung anong gusto mong gawin. So, I'll just be here. I'll be your friend. Kung if you wanna go back to that situation, go lang. Pero wala na tayong ibang advice na maibibigay kung hindi ka talaga makikinig. Kasi at the end of the day, until she realizes the part that she plays in the situation, as Mika mentioned in a previous episode, right? It takes two to tango, and you sometimes don't realize that you also play a part in that toxic situation. So, if it is causing you harm as the friend, I think there's only so much you can do, and you could say like, okay, well, at the end of the day, what I did was I said, matanda ka na. You know what's right and wrong. I can't force you. I've given you all the advice I could give. If you don't like my advice, maybe you can seek professional help. Maybe you can ask someone else for advice. Baka naman yung ibang advice, if it's phrased differently, might light a bulb in her head that will eventually change the behavior. But if you don't change anything, nothing will change, right? That's saying that if you don't make a change, nothing in your situation will change. So if you feel that you have enough patience to stay in this friendship and to give advice, good on you. But also, if you feel like it is already causing you harm and that you are doubting yourself, then maybe have that discussion with your friend and see what solution you guys can come up with. Because I think your friend is kind of leaning on you for emotional support, but she's not necessarily being dishonest, and she's not causing you harm. She's not forcing you to do something you don't feel comfortable with. So I think parang gusto lang niya ng kadamay is what I'm understanding from this story. And if kaya mong bigay, then okay. Pero kung may hangganan ka rin lang naman, dahil tao rin lang naman tayong lahat, kung may hangganan ka rin, explain mo rin sa kanya like I did with my friend na hindi magbabago yung advice ko. Okay, makikinig ako, pero ganun pa rin yung advice ko. Kung ayaw mo, nasa sayo na yan, 'di ba? Hindi mo rin naman kasi pwedeng pilitin yung mga tao around you. So, in the end, we also have to accept that people are where they're at and we have to meet them where they're at. So, kung ayaw nila, walang pilitan, right? I think that's actually a common thing that I tell my friends all the time. In terms of, it can be something as light as what you want to eat in the day, to relationships you choose to have, to career choices. Walang pilitan. Kumbaga, accept lang tayo. Okay, gusto mo dyan, go. As long as wala naman kayong sinasaktan na tao and walang sinasaktan na ibang tao yung mga kaibigan mo, at the end of the day, you want to be a supportive friend. Because when the time comes na ikaw din yung kailangan or napilay ka and kailangan mo rin ng support, you want your friends to be able to be there for you too. So, yeah, I hope that helps. And if anyone has any more insight in the comment section, let me know. Our next letter says, Hi Nicole, I want to share this kasi it happened to me recently and ask na rin for advice. Please change the names of people involved if ever mapili mo. Okay, so palitan natin yung names. So we have 3 characters. We have name 1, name 2, and 3. So, para gawin nating telenovela type. Si character number 1 is Valentina. Number 2 is Claudia. Number 3 is Roberta. Okay. So, sabi niya, honestly, ang lala ng nangyari. Parang friendship breakup meets corporate betrayal. Boogsh. Okay. So, the story goes. Sabi niya, so ganito. Early January, I confided in Valentina about my promotion concerns. Sabi ko lang na baka may mag-question kung bakit assistant manager agad instead of senior lead. I even mentioned Claudia, who was one of my close friends for almost 3 years, as someone who brought it up just to support my point. So, okay. So, ulitin natin. So, basically, nag-open up siya kay Valentina na baka may magduda sa company na bakit daw siya na-promote agad sa assistant manager imbis na senior lead. Tapos, nung kinakwento niya to kay Valentina, binanggit niya na, sabi niya, actually si Claudia, yung close friend ni girl, na nabanggit na to her. Okay? So, sabi niya, I trusted Valentina kasi thinking that she would guide me. Pero a week later, she couldn't let go of the issue. Out of nowhere, she asked me again, kala ko ba friends kayo ni Claudia? Di ba isang circle lang kayo? I was caught off guard but I said, ewan ko po, pero di ko po binig deal. Pinaghahawakan ko na lang po yung maganda naming samahan. She laughed, so I thought, okay, tapos na. Then, February came. I got promoted. I thought, okay na since they congratulated me and all. But it turns out that Valentina used this as an opportunity to twist the story through Roberta naman. Okay, so si Roberta used to be one of her close friends but is also Claudia's best friend. Okay, so sabihin natin ang nagsulat nito ay si Sasha. Sasha Fierce? Okay, so si Sasha nag-open up kay Valentina. Binanggit niya kay Valentina na binanggit ni Claudia na weird nga yung promotion niya. Pero si Sasha trusted Valentina. Tapos, it turns out na si Valentina used this as an opportunity to twist the story through Roberta. Si Roberta naman used to be one of Sasha's close friends but is also Claudia's best friend. Okay? Para naintindihan natin yung dynamics ng mga characters. Ang nakarating kay Claudia is hindi daw siya masaya sa promotion ko, which wasn't what I said at all. Ang sinabi ko kay Valentina was that my promotion might be questioned if I skipped the senior lead level. Then came Claudia. She confronted me, said mean things, and even threatened to go to HR. Ang masakit, she and Roberta backed up Valentina, showing her screenshots of times na I vented about Valentina when I felt mistreated. Now suddenly, I'm the villain. Okay, so ang magulo dito is si Sasha nag-open up kay Valentina na yung close friend ni Sasha, si Claudia. Tapos, nabanggit ni Claudia na weird nga na promote siya to 2 levels above. Parang ganon. Tapos, si Valentina, ang nangyari, sa intindi ko dito, kunento niya kay Roberta na best friend si Claudia, so nakarating kay Claudia. So, ngayon si Claudia, kinonfront si Sasha, yung nagsulat nito. Nag-confrontation sila, pero Claudia took it one step further na sabi niya she'll go to HR. Tapos, etong si Claudia tsaka si Roberta, ginamit yung mga screenshots niya, pinakita kay Valentina na nung nag-vent si Sasha about Valentina kay Claudia. Girl, it's giving telenovela. Wait, okay. So, how would you navigate this toxic office situation? Kasi nangyayari nga naman talaga to. I think, ang mahirap sa ganyan is kasi hindi natin alam kung sino ba, lahat ba kayo magka-level or si Valentina ba is yung boss mo? Kasi ang hirap ng power dynamics kung boss mo si Valentina tapos siniraan ka ng friends mo kay Valentina who is your boss, ang hirap nun. Kasi now, you're in a situation where you probably don't feel like your boss trusts you, and also now you feel na people you work with in your work environment are talking behind your back, possibly even going to HR, so may threat na baka mawalan ka pa ng trabaho, 'di ba? Ang hirap But I think what I would say to this is, one, tignan mo muna if umabot sa HR. Kasi kapag dinala nila sa HR, now it's threatening your livelihood, right? And that's toxic in the sense na walang siraan ng career, 'di ba? Bakit ganun? At the same time, I think it's toxic when, 'di ba, sabi dun sa article kanina, one of the signs of a toxic relationship is jealousy. I think baka, hindi ko sure, pero I'm guessing baka may jealousy factor in the fact that you mentioned that your promotion skipped a level. Bigla ka naging account manager kesa senior lead. Parang ganun yung sinabi mo. And I think that tends to happen a lot in work environments kasi natural na people will end up comparing and seeing what your promotion is in comparison to theirs, 'di ba? Lalo-lalo na kung pareho kayong position to start with. Tapos nauna ka. That happens. That's part of life. Pero at the same time, I think you shouldn't let this affect your work performance, because at the end of the day, if you let it affect you at na-affect yung work performance mo, trabaho mo na yung at stake. Ikaw na yung magkaka-problem kapag hindi ka na nakaka-perform at the level that you are expected to be at in whatever promotion you're at, right? But also, I think it's great to use this as motivation to do better at your promotion, because if ikaw na-promote tapos sila hindi, kung tutuusin in terms of work positions, ikaw yung mas nakakaangat 'di ba? So, use that as motivation na, okay, sige, talk behind my back, okay, fine. Pero ako, paangat lang ako, aangat yung career ko. That happens in many situations, even friendships. If it's just petty na you guys are they're just talking, like they're just talking about you behind your back, hayaan mo na sila. Kasi at the end of the day, ikaw yung nakakalamang. So, wag mong damdamin. If it's just petty work chatter, obviously, it's not ideal, right? But it happens. And when you are in a situation that you find it happening to you, don't let it hold you down. Kasi clearly, you're doing something right. Clearly, ikaw yung quote-unquote nakakalamang in the situation. Ikaw yung napro-promote. So, you must be doing something right. So, just focus at the end of the day naman. Okay, not all companies, but at the end of the day, trabaho lang yan. 'Di ba? Work lang yan. That's not our whole entire lives. So, it'll be more toxic if you let it consume you and if you let it affect your well-being, your work performance, physically, like anything. Do not let them win. Kumbaga, do not let them affect you. 'Di ba yung saying na haters gone hate? Hayaan mo sila. Okay. Lahat naman tayo may haters kung alam man natin or hindi, 'di ba? Syempre, mas masaklap pag alam mo, kasi then magsisimula ka magduda, ganyan. Pero 'di ba they also say na if you have haters, you must be doing something right. I'm just saying this in the sense na to motivate you to not let it affect you. Now, ibang usapan kung may ginagawa kang mali or may sinisiraan ka rin. Iba rin yun, 'di ba? So, kung alam mo na pumapasok ka lang, you're doing your job, you're doing a good job, pag uwi, okay, done, bye. If it really gets bad, then okay, edi ikaw yung mag-report sa HR, 'di ba? Ikaw yung magsabi na, guys, they are creating a toxic work environment. I'm trying to be here and do my job. I'm trying to focus on the projects at hand. Naninira sila, and it's ruining company morale. That is an option you can take, but also, I don't think it's worth it. I feel like you seem to be doing something right. You seem to be in a better position, so don't let it affect you. Use this to be a good role model. Honestly, if the situation is that people are really just talking smack about you, your bosses or other people who are working with you are gonna realize that, recognize that. Honestly, it'll only do you better to just keep focusing on yourself and to keep succeeding. So, hayaan mo na sila. In the end, wala ka rin namang magagawa. You can't take back na nag-vent ka. I think use this as a lesson to be careful about who you trust in the workplace. And kung ganun lang din naman, kung ayaw mong maapektuhan yung workplace mo, if you want to vent about coworkers, maybe you can use that time or that lesson to vent with people who aren't in your workspace. It could be friends outside of work, it can be family members, it can be other people, para hindi rin siya nakakabalik and naaapektuhan yung workplace environment. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes talaga, lahat naman tayo, like, pag uwi, oh my God, sobrang annoying nung coworker ko. Hindi mo naman kailangan sabihin dun sa, katabi mo sa cubicle, di ba? Iuwi mo na lang. Sabihin mo sabihin mo sa podcast. I-share mo ilabas mo in other ways. There are other ways to, So, careful who you trust. Don't let it affect you and just keep doing you. If you're doing well at work, let them be. Okay, now let's discuss a toxic relationship that comes to mind when talking about all of this, right? I think one, I mentioned na yung kanina, I was walking on eggshells. Another one is when I felt that you start to doubt your self-worth because there's this relationship that kind of always belittles your achievements. And I think that's toxic in the sense that you want to surround yourself in all relationships, familial, friendships, romantic. You want to surround yourself with people who are uplifting and empowering and supportive. And if there are people in your life who are constantly bringing down your achievements, or if you do something well, tapos sasabihin nila, okay, yun lang. Yung parang, okay, siguro maliit sa'yo, pero big deal sa akin yung nangyari, diba? I think it's important to choose the energy in which you place in which relationships you have. So if you feel that a friendship that you have is bringing you down in the sense that they are constantly picking at your flaws, teasing you about your insecurities, belittling your achievements, I think it's more beneficial to walk away from situations like that. Because kung tutuusin, what are you getting? What are you getting out of that relationship? Kung lagi nilang binibring up yung mga insecurities mo, or lagi ka nilang minamaliit, ano point? Ba't ka nandun? Anong nakukuha mo? 'Di ba? Labas ka na, because ang daming, ilan ba yung tao sa mundo? 7 billion? 8 billion na ba? Sa 7 billion na tao sa mundo, like, wala kang mahanap na ibang uplifting people. Syempre meron. The way I look at it is, kung ako, again, hindi ako perfect, may mga shortcomings din ako, pero kung ako, kaya kong maging uplifting sa mga friends ko, tas hindi nila kaya mabali sa akin yun, alam ko na I exist eh. So, kung may taong ganun, alam mong may iba pang taong ganun sa mundo. So, wag mong panghawakan na porkit may maganda kayong pinagsamahan, yun na yun, kailangan, eto na yung forever. Ang daming tao dyan, girl. Ang daming friends, and sometimes they come from unexpected places. So, open yourself up to find better relationships that are uplifting, supportive, and encouraging and empowering. Because at the end of the day, you both win in that situation. And I think that's what we all want from all of our relationships, right? Don't you want to be in a reciprocal relationship, even friendship, or in a family environment where you all can be supportive of one another? Isn't that what we all want? I mean, I haven't met someone who's like, sana hindi supportive yung family ko. Said no one ever. Diba? So, if you can do your best to foster situations like that, I think it's a win-win for all of us. And if you can't, because we're all dealt different cards, ako rin naman, merong mga tao sa buhay ko na alam kong hindi ko sila mababago. And wala rin ako magagawa about the position that they're in my life. But I know the only thing that I can control in that situation is myself and the time and energy that I put into that. Okay, sabihin natin may family member kayo. Actually, eto, meron akong friend. And napagdaanan ko rin to with one family member na parang, I knew na, okay, wala akong magagawa. Kasi, at the end of the day, yan yung position mo sa life ko. 'Di ba? Hindi ko na mababago. Hindi na rin kita mababago. Kahit anong sabihin ko, anong gawin ko, walang magbabago sa'yo. Ang pwede ko lang baguhin is yung sarili ko and kung ano yung pinapayagan kong pumasok sa pag-iisip ko at saka sa pagkatao ko. So, okay. what can I control in this situation? I can control the amount of time that I spend with this person. I can control the amount of energy I allow this person to take in terms of my mental well-being. Will I believe this person when they say things like that? And when you take the power back in that sense, you also empower yourself, because then you know that the situation you're in, no matter what cards you're dealt, you still have some control in it. And I think that's empowering because that allows you to believe na, okay, kahit ito yung sitwasyon ko, kaya kong ibahin yung paniningin ko sa sitwasyon, right? So, okay, hindi ka supportive na family member, wala na akong magagawa dyan. Eto na yung sitwasyon. Hindi ka supportive, fine. I just won't hang out with you as much, and I will go find supportive people. Or I will be my own cheerleader. Ayaw mo maniwala na kaya ko to? Well, ako naniniwala ako na kaya ko. So watch me prove it to you. 'Di ba? And in the end, kung magbago man isip nila, great. Kung hindi, at least ikaw nabago mo yung sitwasyon mo, 'di ba? Kasi let's explore the alternative. If the alternative is tatanggapin mo na lang, eto na yung sitwasyon mo, okay ka lang na hanggang dyan ka na. Okay ka lang na tatanggapin mo na lang na laging negative, laging degrading. Okay na? Yan na yun? Or is there better that you can try for? 'Di ba? Kasi wala namang perfect, but we keep trying to get better. And I think that's the point of why we have these communities. We're always learning. Like, I'm probably gonna be wrong about some of the things I'm saying, or I've also done wrong things, but I can keep trying to learn and trying to be better, right? And so, even if you're in a toxic workplace, a toxic friendship, or a toxic romantic relationship, what can you change about your behaviors in that situation? Kung hindi mo kaya, if it's a job, let's say, that you can't afford to lose because you have financial responsibilities at home, baka may mga anak kang kailangan buhayin, okay, wala tayong magagawa, kailangan mo yung trabaho. Pero, anong pwede mong ibahin dun sa sitwasyon, 'di ba? Okay, iwas, kung alam mong mainit yung ulo ng boss mo sa umaga, iwas tayo. Huwag tayo mag-eye contact. Alam mo yung ganun, like, just a few things na, what can you do to make your situation better? And I hope that, if anything, that this episode is empowering to you guys, that if it is a situation that you absolutely cannot get out of, then I understand, but maybe find a support system that can help you through it and help make the situation manageable. Or if it is a situation that you have some power to change, then I hope that you do take this as a sign to make that change for yourself, because at the end of the day, you're gonna look back on this when you're 80, when you're 90 years old, and be like, girl, haters gonna hate, but I did not let them win. 'Di ba? Like, isn't it more empowering na at the end of your life when you're like, oh, pinagdudahan nila ako, but sino ang may huling halakhak? 'Di ba? 'Di ba mas empowering 'yun? So doon tayo. Kasi the alternative is so sad. Like, the alternative is what? Suko na lang? O di wag na. 'Di ba? So, at the end of the day, sino ang nagwagi? Eh di si Sasha. Fierce. Buti na lang yun yung pinili kong name. 'Di ba? It all came full circle. Nung una, hindi ko alam kung saan papunta yung story, pero natin. Naidala natin na nabigyan pa rin natin ng happy ending. In the end, I hope, Sasha, kung sino ka man, nakatulong to and naka-empower to sa'yo. And guys, if you have friends who you know are dealing with toxic friendships, relationships, work environments, please send this to them. Hopefully, it's encouraging and empowering. And if any of this is something you guys have gone through and that you feel that you can impart some wisdom or some words of encouragement to our friends in this community, please do let us know in the comment section. It's super insightful. It's very helpful. And also let us know what other topics you want us to talk about in the comment section, so that we can keep opening up these topics to the floor and people can share their stories as well. And yeah, we'll end this one here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!